it has been 2 weeks since the great Strava pricing fiasco began. And during that time period, Strava has mostly, well, dug their hole a little bit deeper. However, the good news though is they finally sent out an email to all users clarifying them of, sorry, one second. It's Strava. Hello, this is Ray. Oh, you didn't send out the email. No, really? Not at all? Oh, okay, you posted it. Where did you post? A club group? Like for running clubs, you posted on a club, like a little page? Oh, okay. Are you going to send out the email? He just hung up angrily on me. Strange. So yeah, there's no email yet, but they did update some pricing pages. They got upset at me again. They even called me out in the letter, and I think, oh, that's right, they're violating a bunch of EU rules on pricing. That is a basic summary of where we are today. And it's worthwhile talking about what they've done well and what they have not done so well. Now, just a quick note, this video is sponsored by Surfshark. A little bit more about them later on. Now, in case you missed out on this whole fiasco, let me just summarize it in like less than 30 seconds. Back in November, Strava changed the prices quietly without notice for a group of UK users. Of course, being UK on the island in a dark time of year, nobody really heard their screams. It wasn't until early January when they tried the same trick on a bunch of Canadians and Americans, and people were like, whoa, what is this all about? Just my phone, no big deal. So this got me interested, and the more I dug into the story, the more perplexing it got. To the point where I eventually emailed Strava's PR department, the same PR department I've been dealing with for like a decade or so, to get a little bit of clarity on these things. And that in turn actually triggered them issuing a press release, a press statement about the pricing changes to just their press page. But it still didn't actually include what the new price of Strava was. A few more volleys later, and Strava gave me like the equivalent of the finger. They were done talking to me, yet still could not provide the actual price of Strava. Of course, this story blew up and has now seen literally millions of views around the world, depending on which platform you're looking at. So that all takes us to this week, when Strava started changing a bunch of things behind the scenes and ultimately sending out an email minus the sending out part. And so what they did instead is they posted a message to what's called the Strava Club. Now, the Strava Club is just like any other club out there on Strava, like a running club or a cycling club or anything else for that matter. Except, of course, that it's capitalized, because it's the one and only Strava Club, like Flight Club, but a lot bigger, I guess. It has about 4.2 million members in it, which sounds impressive until you remember that Strava has over 100 million people. So in this case, only about 4% of the people are part of this club. Nonetheless, the idea is that algorithmically, Strava will post this to your feed. So you'll see it in the same place as you would see any other thing, any other workout from a friend or family or someone that you follow. In my case, though, I didn't. Now, hey, just a quick note, if you are finding this video interesting, useful, entertaining, or something, just give it a like at the bottom there. It really does help with this video and the channel quite a bit. And so I started getting messages from people saying, hey, Strava sent a message out, I'll go check it out. And it's odd, I didn't get the message, and neither did my wife. In fact, I was actually at a cycling media camp of sorts, or press camp, if you will, earlier this week in Portugal with a bunch of other cyclists, and no one else had got the message either. And that's because, again, it was sent to this hidden group, effectively. And unless you knew that group existed and knew where to look for it, you probably would never seen this message. Now, I'm going to put the message on the screen right now, and to their credit, it's pretty good. There are a couple pieces, though, I want to point out. As you can see in the message, they take responsibility for screwing up. It outlines how they screwed up, and in particular, it outlines the fact that they were really annoyed that I noticed they screwed up. You'll see this little line right here where it says, to read or hear about the price change confusion elsewhere is unacceptable. I'm pretty sure they're talking about me right there. I'm like 100% sure they're talking about me, but you know, hey. Overall, it's not a bad message. But stepping back, the problem is that they didn't actually send this out. And in their message, they said, our intention was not to hide these pricing changes. But you just hit it. You literally just hit it on a club, basically a running club, if you will, that's only seen by a small fraction, a single-digit percentage of the users. And even within that, not everyone actually sees it. Every other tech company out there that's been increasing prices over the last few months or so has sent an email. It's not that hard. And I know, Strava, you know how to send out emails, because you sent me one out yesterday about your acquisition of an app called FatMap? FatMap, yes. Now, I've never heard of FatMap before, and no one else at this particular cycling event had heard of FatMap either. But we all agreed it looked pretty cool, and it was pretty cool that Strava is acquiring this, and I suspect they have pretty cool intentions for this. In fact, they even outlined some of those in the email they sent to you and every other Strava member out there. but they won't tell you about the pricing changes. And I think I probably know why. In Strava's Fight Club, Strava Club post there, they link to a new Strava page called strava.com/pricing. And you can access this page from any country on earth and see the pricing for that particular country. Shows both the monthly price and the annual price side by side. I appreciate that. That did not exist before. When I tried a few weeks ago to find pricing, it was not listed anywhere. There was no place whatsoever you could look at the price of Strava without creating an account and then going to sign up for an account with a credit card. That was the only place. Once you got through all those steps, gave them the email and all that kind of stuff, then you finally got to unlock the ability to see what the price was. This new pricing page is accessible to anyone and it's super easy to use. Additionally, in the last week, they've gone ahead and correctly updated the renewal page. So if you go to your strava.com account and look at the renewal price there, you will see the correct renewal price for your account. Up until this moment, you would see the incorrect renewal price if your account renewed more than 30 days from now. So a lot of people thought that their account was being renewed at a lower rate, when in reality, their higher rate just simply hadn't kicked in yet. But there still wasn't like a table to look at and see and compare the prices by country. So I did the next best thing. I went and created my own darn table. I used Surfshark, the VPN that's sponsoring this video, to go ahead and do that. I also used Surfshark last time, but what you can see here is me connecting to every single country and then reloading the strava.com/pricing page and validating that shows the correct country name. Another thing, by the way, I do appreciate they did. They just put the country name there so you can be sure you got the right country. It's a nice little touch. Good job, Strava. And I did this over and over and over again, 75 times for 75 different countries. I selected the top 75 countries that read the site dcrainmaker.com because that was the easiest way of doing it, and included all of the European or EU countries as well, and I'll get to why in just a second. Once I got to country number 76, Trinidad and Tobago, in case you're curious, they had 1/1000th the traffic of the top country, US. Now we'll get to all the crazy data from that in just one quick second, but as I mentioned earlier on, this video is sponsored by Surfshark. Surfshark's a VPN you saw me just using right there to go ahead and find the price in all these different countries. You can see on the screen right there. It is silly easy to use. You just choose the country you want from the list, and then you go and click connect, and you're done. It's good and ready to go. As an American living abroad for more than a decade now, I am constantly using a VPN to access websites from a different country. For example, watching TV shows on things like Netflix, etc., as if I was in the US or some other country, or even just like paying bills and signing up for services, maybe even fitness services, like I was in a different country. Even for my reviews, I'm often double checking prices in different countries. With over 3,200 servers in 100 countries, Surfshark solves all these problems for both me and my family, and probably for you as well. You can use my code Rainmaker to save 83% and get 3 months free, and the whole thing's fully refundable if for some reason you don't like it. With that, thanks to Surfshark for not only sponsoring this video, but having a really easy tool for me to figure out all of this data. So what I've got right here on the screen is the Strava pricing for Europe. I've divided up EU in Europe. EU is based on the official member states, not based on the euro currency, and I put it all on one page right there. I also then added the US equivalency cost using the exchange rate from today. And as you can see, Sweden gets the best deal, paying only equivalent of $51 within Europe, compared to Germany, the worst deal at $81, again, using dollars as kind of a baseline currency here. However, it gets even more fascinating when we look at the entire world. In this case, Brazil takes the cake for the cheapest Strava account out there at $29. And then still it is also, again, Germany at the very top at $81, followed by Netherlands and Canada. Now, keep in mind, this is where you instantiated your Strava subscription from. So in my case, I live in the Netherlands. I should be paying almost the most here, but my Strava account, the subscription, was created in the US. So I'm still paying the US costs. Now, when this first came out, a bunch of people said, hey, isn't it illegal for Strava to have different pricing between different countries? And the answer is somewhat complicated, but in this case, it's really crystal clear. So clear, in fact, that the European Union has an entire page dedicated to it for consumers and even uses a website platform as an example of it. So companies can normally charge different prices per country in the EU as long as the products are different. So if there's something different about those products, they can charge them different prices. Or if there's some other aspect of the product that makes it unique in one country versus another country. However, when it comes to digital goods like this, on their own European Union website, they list out that web platforms are one of the 3 exceptions that are not permitted to go ahead and have different pricing. In fact, they even deliver a smackdown sentence here. They say, however, there is no possible justification for differences in access to goods or services for customers from different EU countries in the following 3 situations. Number 2 being the most important one here: sale of electronically supplied services, such as cloud computing services or website hosting. And at the top of that section, you'll see, as an EU national, a trader cannot charge you more when you buy a product or service just because your nationality or your country of residence. So at this point, it's pretty clear Strava isn't quite following the letter of the law here. But if you read through this entire page, you'll see that companies must offer you the ability to change the pricing from another EU country. So I should be able to change pricing to a cheaper EU country if I wanted to. Strava offers no way to do that. In fact, someone actually emailed their customer support just a day ago and asked that question, and they said very clearly, no, we don't have any way of doing that, which would be another violation of EU rules. At this point, you're probably saying, hey, but doesn't Netflix charge different amounts for different countries? And they do. They do that even within the EU. The key thing, though, is that Netflix has a different catalog for each country. In fact, there's entire websites dedicated not just to the catalogs per country, but to the penny cost per title in the catalog per country. I'm not kidding. This stuff all exists. But in Strava's case, the product is identical across every country. So they don't actually have that justification that either the EU or other tech companies will leverage. Now, one thing that you may have noticed looking at this chart is that Strava has both custom pricing and default pricing. So custom pricing are countries like Australia, Canada, the UK, which have specialized pricing that basically increases the price for the particular countries. However, there's default pricing for other countries that don't have custom pricing. That'd be an example such as Vietnam or South Korea. And in those cases, they are billed in US dollars and billed at $7.99 a month or $59.99 a year. That's the new price, by the way, the increased price. But there are interesting exceptions. For example, the cheapest price, Brazil, has their own custom pricing, as does Indonesia and South Africa. Yet India, a country that's often focused on by tech companies, does not actually have their own custom pricing and falls under the US dollar pricing. Now, there is no good way to see what the old prices were across all 75 of these countries. In my case, I know that it goes previously from $54 up to $79. So it is a modest increase, but it's something that for me and what I value in Strava from a premium subscription standpoint, a subscriber standpoint, I don't mind paying for that. And that's one of the things that I think some people might misunderstand at this point, just thinking I'm like out to get Strava. I have written dozens and dozens of posts and dozens of videos about Strava over the years, and all about their new features and the cool stuff they're doing. And yes, from time to time, Strava definitely screws up, and I call them out on that as well. But for me personally, I find incredible value in those paid features. Do I want to pay more? No, of course not. But I also use them a ton. Even as early this week down riding in Portugal, I use those heat map routing and navigation features to go ahead and take routes that our tour guide that was with us had created, then tweak them a little bit, and passing back and forth. It all took mere seconds on Strava, things that would have taken longer to find good routes on other platforms. So for me, I will continue subscribing because I get huge value from that in my life. Still, my wife, on the other hand, is canceling her subscription because she just doesn't simply use the paid features, doesn't find any value in them or use them anywhere frequent enough to justify the cost. Speaking of justification, the final thing here is that Strava needs to justify why it has not sent a note out to all subscribers. Now, I know they're trying to keep this secret for some reason, despite saying they're not trying to hide it, but at the end of the day, if you don't tell people stuff, that's trying to hide it. Hey, just a note here from future me as I finish editing this. I did actually reach out to Strava, just in case you're wondering, asking them whether or not they're going to send that email. It's been 60 hours since I sent that email, and I received absolutely nothing back. Hopefully you found this video interesting or useful. If so, go ahead and like that like button at the bottom or subscribe for plenty more sports technology goodness. With that, have a good one.